So, for example, I here am developing, okay, well, my name, the date, and the part of the program that I'm following this particular day. But then, what is my weight? What is my grip strength before and after, measured with a dynamometer, a device that measures your grip strength? What are my heart variables, the average heart rate during my workout and the maximum heart rate that I got? What are the actual exercises? What are the standards? Like, this level of detail and complexity is what I want to quite literally do for everything. And I'm not even really exaggerating. It will, of course, be in terms of priority, what is feasible, what isn't, but it's everything from personal accountability systems to artificial intelligence to exercise to meditation to processing experiences to therapy to functional design to just a literal personal system. Like, I have a Windows license, so I use Windows on my computer, but I have so many issues with the way that Windows goes about it. Like, Word document, it is such an inefficient system. It is poorly designed because it is made by a company that doesn't value the user experience. They only value not losing customers to their competition. The way that they do that is by having products that are good enough and having a control of the market share that is so vast that it is inefficient for people to move out of their ecosystem. They want to make it hard to disconnect, not make it super amazing and fun and rewarding for people to join. They're essentially holding us hostage by the shit quality of their work. It's good enough that we don't want to leave. And I don't really have a better alternative. There are some that exist, but they require a lot of time, a lot of setup, even potentially a lot of money. And I don't have that. And so I am held hostage by the Microsoft Corporation. I'm held hostage by the Apple Corporation. I'm held hostage by basically almost every corporation that has an impact on my daily life, and I'm not alone. We basically all do. Unless you own the corporation, and even then you're kind of stuck with their products usually. We live in a system that glorifies mediocrity, and I'm not okay with that. And I don't think anyone else should be either. So a big part of my life is literally going to be trying my best to change things, to inspire others to have those conversations. This is my small part, designing systems, engaging with an audience, hopefully inspiring the people who are interested or helping those who have relevant information. But at the end of the day, stream elements. Oh my god, I never deactivated that. That is adorable. Okay, I'm realizing there's some stuff that I I need to disable on the back end. This was from 2023, literally. But there's a lot of work ahead of us. There's a lot to do. And oh, wait, YouTube deactivated. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, it seems like YouTube deactivated. Oh, okay, no, it's back. Perfect. There's a lot to do. And usually when I get to this stage of the explanation of who I am, how I function, what I intend to do, people get a little lost in how much there is to do. And I get that. I really do. There's a lot to do. Here's the thing. I'm not doing it alone. I have literally multiple business partners in multiple categories. I run a longevity community for my city of Montreal. I'm scaling a different longevity community internationally, and I'm part of a different longevity community also internationally. I'm part of a public speaking organization. I'm an admin in, well, I'm sort of a co-helper in a content creator personal mastermind development group. I, for a living, represent humanity. I think of myself as an employee of humanity. And because of it, my goal, my purpose, is to do the best that I can to fulfill my singular function. I want to develop myself to the fullest extent that I can, which then also involves making my environment conducive to that state. It means being able to have a greater sense of purpose, but also be able to engage in the charitable acts that make me feel like a good person. It's having the resources to do so, but it's also developing the infrastructure around me. It's having enough empathy to feel bad when I see people who are struggling unnecessarily, to stand up for individuals or entire subjects of conversation that people tend to be afraid of due to the potential social backlash. I think of myself as an employee of humanity, and my purpose is relatively clear. I want to do my best. And at the end of the day, that really is all it's about. I want to do my best. I want to help who I can, including myself. I want to live a very good life, and I want to live a good life because I've earned it by helping so many others. The system you see before you is one of many, 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 many examples. It's a small but meaningful part of a much larger plan. I have designed the next 25 years of my life. No joke, I'm currently in phase 2.5. Oh, it's currently deactivated. I did not mean to deactivate something that seems to have disappeared. Oh, okay, it's back. It just needed to be refreshed for some reason. And this also needs to be refreshed. Okay. I'm not sure when it went away, but essentially what this is, well, this is my ability. Approximately 2 to 3 months ago, I came to a decision. Something needed to change. I was working a job in another city, and I was doing basically 12 hours of driving per week, plus the actual work itself. Due to my physical injuries and the fact that it was a more physical job, it left me in pain. I didn't have the time to exercise, and there were many, 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 many things. And the more that I stayed, the longer that I stayed, the more that I understood that way of life was not conducive to my health, but also wasn't conducive to the projects that I had. Like I said, I literally run a community. I'm part of multiple others. I have many projects, many systems and developments, literally in the process of building several companies. And the reality of the situation was that I was spending too much time on something that did not provide that same value. And I had spent the last 4 years, no joke, like literally the last 4 years, and 3 to 4 to 5,000 hours of my time dedicated to my core project. I am building a series of systems and frameworks and philosophies with the intent of helping, of clearing things up. It's better understanding any situation. It's how do you measure the state of politics. So, for example, it's being able to literally have a built-in system with a design principle that allows you to evaluate. Take X political system, the United States. How do you measure the attributes of certain political parties? Where do they get their funding? What are the percentages of their return on certain promises? How can you literally make a database out of the measure of the state of a country's or a system's or a party's politics? Can you evaluate an individual? And then with that knowledge, how can you design a framework, a social movement to help get people elected where you're at least conscious of who you're electing? Because right now, most countries in the West have a pseudo-democratic system. We elect the people who then get to choose for us. We're not really choosing ourselves. And a part of that is because, especially in American politics, if you want to run, you need a shit ton of money. And so only the people who have a lot of money get to run in politics. And that also means that in order to get the money, you need to succeed in a system that is, by its nature, quite literally predatory. Capitalism, for all its good and its faults, requires an underclass, meaning the system, the economic system that we use requires an underclass and requires capital exploitation to work. It is just a function of how it works, and anyone who believes in capitalism and is honest will agree with that statement. It's by design. It requires an underclass. It motivates and incentivizes future work. It drives innovation, blah, blah, blah. Like, it has its value. There's a reason it works. But it works in part because it requires cruelty. It requires exploitation. Now, some people in favor of capitalism would probably say something to the effect of, well, there's an inevitable amount of suffering and blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, I probably actually agree. However, I believe there's a value in distinguishing unnecessary and necessary suffering. For example, For basically all of human history, the idea of poverty and starvation was normal because there was no way that every single person could be fed. But now we have industrial scale farming, we have international trade, we have technologies that are developing year by year, day by day, that blows everything out of the water. And so, with this new advancement in technology, we have had the ability to end hunger worldwide for going on 4 decades. For more than 40 years, we've had the ability to end world hunger. Not a single person in the world actually has to die of hunger. We produce more food every single year than every single person on earth could actually could eat, but we waste most of it, or we misuse most of it, or we have improper agricultural subsidies that go more towards meat production than to plants. We have improper redistribution, we have a culture of waste. And so the way that we're using our economic model, our framework, reflects the level of empathy designed into that framework. Because we rely mostly on capitalism, and capitalism requires an underclass, it is then permissible to us that we use another underclass in another country as exploited labor to justify our standard of living. But then that becomes a double-edged sword. Because the more that we use this on others, but then technology develops anyways, and even with their lesser quality of life, they start getting better and better and better. Technology allows them to start fighting for better conditions on their own. Their own countries want to start unionizing or want to start collectively getting together to resist the great Western powers that have been exploiting them for literal centuries. And as that happens, we lose access to cheap labor, we lose access to raw materials, and we have to start now producing for ourselves. But the companies have a fiduciary responsibility. They have a legal responsibility to the business owners, the people who've invested in that company, to make more money. And if you take an action that goes against their profit, they can literally fire you as CEO. If the board of directors thinks that your actions are not in alignment with their growth, they have the legal ability to fire you. So let's say I become the CEO of Apple, and I decide, well, we're no longer going to make our phones in Foxconn, the Chinese factory where they had to install nets to prevent people from trying to kill themselves, because it was a really bad issue. If I were to move production out of that location, well, now the phones would probably cost about $3,000 to make. And most people would not want to buy a $3,000 phone. They barely can afford a $1,000 phone. So now the reality of the situation would be that Apple would have to now start making less profits in order to be able to sell the phone at a reasonable cost. And actually, Apple could. The cost of building the phone really isn't all that much, but they take a very large cut of the profit. And so in order to have more and more and more and more profit, they found more and more and more ways of reducing costs, shipping manufacturing to a different location, paying a different group of people less money, using exploited labor, using different resource and networks and connections, or simply then making the phone so that it becomes essentially almost useless or dysfunctional after a short amount of time, forcing you to buy more and buy more. Capitalism, in its core, in its essence, is deregulatory, as all economic systems are, but different economic systems will deregulate themselves in different ways. Communism is highly unstable. Capitalism is remarkably stable, in part because it is cruel. It is cruel by design. It is made to increase ever so slightly resource accumulation, centralizing power. Eventually, a corporation becomes more powerful than another corporation, and either they work them out of the market and get a bigger share of the population that is available to them as customers, or they will literally buy or merge with a different corporation, becoming a monopoly or a larger entity, until eventually there's 3 or 4 large monopolies, and then eventually maybe even those will buy each other. But then what happens when a corporation is more powerful than a government? Well, now they can start buying politicians, they can start slowly changing laws, and that's what we've seen in basically the entire Western world over the last 30-ish years. I'd say 25 to 35 years. We've seen a very slow deregulation. It was very small at first, like make it slightly more permissible to do a very specific type of tax fraud. once that passed and many years went by and the scandal died down, well, they passed another little law that made a different type of tax fraud legal. So, okay, well, then down the line, after like 10, 20, 30 of those, it became legal to give someone a bribe, so long as it went through a corporate PAC and it wasn't directly funded by you or didn't have your name associated to it. Eventually, it became legal to bribe individuals. So, like, literally right now in the United States, it is legal to essentially purchase bribes, so long as you don't explicitly say, this is a bribe, I am giving you money for this service. That is still illegal. But if you say, oh, by the way, I would like to make a very generous donation to your organization because I believe in your values, and then in a separate conversation, oh, I have this problem and it's really irritating, if only someone would do it, like do something about it. That is completely legal. That is literally completely legal. The United States has legalized fraud over the last 20, 30 years. That's because capitalism, when left on its own, is deregulating. The more power that it gets, the more that it will seek to get more power. And right now, companies have a fiduciary, a legal responsibility to make more money. If you take actions that reduce the amount of money that the corporation you serve can make, they will remove you. And so now we have a problem. We have a finite world, finite resources. They are limited. We have a finite amount of raw materials, a finite amount of people. We only have so much on a closed ecosystem like the Earth. And yet, we are using an exponential model of growth. Capitalism right now is an exponential model. The regulations that used to exist are basically being eaten away day by day. And there is no better example than what's currently going on in the United States. It's insane. Capitalism can be good. Communism can be good. Socialism can be good. Even certain tendencies in anarchist thought is like valid. They all have their little nuggets of value. The problem is when you only take one. I am an anarchist. I am a capitalist. I am a communist. I am a socialist. When you take this view, everything kind of goes to shit, because you lose the ability to differentiate between right and wrong. Everything becomes part of your goal or against your goal. Are they part of your tribe or against your tribe? It's either or. And when you go black and white thinking, you lose the entire spectrum of color. Your vision becomes narrow and you lose the ability to think critically. That's the United States right now. It's left or right, Democrat, Republican. There is no middle ground, and the people who try, well, they can't, because the system has literally made it so that you cannot win elections if you are not on either ticket. And so even people who are internally more center-leaning, they will associate themselves with the Democratic or the Republican Party if they want to have a chance at winning, because the system has literally deregulated itself to the point where they control who wins and who doesn't. So at a certain point, they give us the selection of people that they would tolerate having in charge. We then get to select from their selection the people who are in charge of making decisions for us with no accountability. And then they get to do whatever the fuck they want while presenting it as the illusion of choice because we voted for it. And if we don't go and we don't vote, then the people who have even worse ideas will vote for the people who really will destroy everything. And so it's a lose-lose situation. And right now, that seems to be how we are. That seems to be where we're heading. And when that perspective is taken and you extrapolate down the line where that's going, it's horrifying. And so I don't know about you, but I want kids, or even if I don't, like I have a brother, maybe he'll have kids, or I have cousins, maybe they'll have kids, or even just literally a random person on the street. They might have kids one day, and their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren should have an environment, an economy where they have the ability to live well. But more than that, we today have the ability to live well if only we did not exploit as much. Necessary versus unnecessary suffering. Necessary suffering is we have no ability to solve this economic crisis. Unfortunately, some people will lose their job. Unnecessary suffering is Amazon wants more money, so they're going to force their employees to piss in bottles in order to skip their breaks, in order to meet their quotas, in order not to lose their jobs, so that who's the penis rocket guy again? I forget his name. Jeff Bezos, so that Jeff Bezos can literally, so this was insane. He had a mega yacht, and then he had custom built a mega yacht for his mega yacht. However, that yacht was so big, it did not fit out of the harbor in which it was constructed. So he tried using his money and influence to destroy a bridge, well, to deconstruct and reconstruct a historic landmark bridge in order to have his boat actually escape that construction harbor. It caused a big crisis, and so I think it never actually left the original building harbor. But it goes to show that at a certain point, that is unnecessary amounts of suffering. The way that they made that money is by having a fiduciary responsibility to have exponential profits in a finite system. Eventually, when you chop, 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 you start chopping the finger because there's no more extra buffer room left. That is the world we're currently living in. I don't know about you. I'm not really satisfied with that. And so a part of what I intend to do also over my lifetime is literally developing that framework. It is literally working to better understand how we can create a world that works for our needs. So, the way that I see it, we have a responsibility to one another, we have a responsibility to ourselves to speak truth to power when something happens, when we see something. To not be silent. You don't have to agree with me, you don't even have to agree with your neighbor, but if you're able to have a conversation, that is a very good start. The people who are in control, the big bad others, they thrive when we don't speak to one another. When we yell at one another, when we harass one another. Okay, fine, yeah, like it's fun, I suppose. It's engaging, it gets the clicks, but it's not productive. It doesn't lead to anything, and the people who are in charge simply get to sit back and watch the girls fight amongst each other. But then, because we're bickering amongst ourselves, we're not realizing that the people who essentially poked us, got us angry, then turned ourselves towards each other, they're the ones sitting back and literally raking in the profits of our excess labor. I am not against the concept of a billionaire. I am against the concept of a billionaire who made his billions off of a company that quite literally went out of its way to exploit its labor and deny them fair working conditions that allowed them to have a meaningful life. The inability to buy a home, the inability to have food security, the inability to retire, the inability to even have the creature comforts of travel. Because being able to travel, yes, it is a luxury, but it also develops you as a person. The ability to have a robust education, the ability to have access to healthcare that is funded by the people that society has promoted to positions of power. It should be a point of responsibility, a point of personal pride that someone gained incredible wealth through their success, and in return for having had the privilege of developing this wealthy, lavish lifestyle, they get to give back to the community that allowed this to even happen in the first place. I'm not saying take away everyone's wealth. I'm saying let's ensure that the literal bottom 1% of the global population gets its shit together. And the cost that takes, we take from literally the 0.1% of society. Even taking 1% flat tax off of everything that is ever made would, if properly redistributed, solve, I'm willing to bet, 10 to 15% of the world's problems. And that's 1%. I'm not against the concept of a billionaire. I am against the world having billionaires and tolerating poverty. I am against the idea that very soon we're going to have the world's first trillionaire and still have people starving to death. I am against the fact that an over-bloated, psychopath-ish version of a man, in my opinion, was able to build an entire empire off of the exploitation of the labor class. And that doesn't just apply to Jeff Bezos, it applies to Elon Musk, it applies to basically everyone else. Steve Jobs to a point. Well, his empire more than anything else. The point is, there's a lot of work to do. And so, yes, I'm designing systems, but I'm designing this system because I want to figure out how to be healthy. And at the same time, because I'm developing it for myself, with very minor customizations and with a team that is qualified to do so, this can become a fully available product to anyone and everyone. Literally. Like, just literally. This can be available to everyone. Where it gets interesting, in my opinion, is I plan on doing a lot more than just developing systems. I've been working on developing a personal code of ethics. I've also been literally researching and archiving how to modify and fix society. This is Journal 17, but I also have 1,500 hours of audio and video, voice and audio and video notes of different elements of all this. I have tens of hundred. Well, I've tens of. I've dozens, I would say, different projects and systems. I have hundreds, if not thousands, of different documents. I have hundreds of thousands of pages. I have millions of words of text and notes. All of it with a single purpose, a single point. My goal is to spend the next 25 or so years of my life preparing for a very specific event. I've devised a 25-year plan, a 5-phase model. I'm currently in phase 2.5. So now, if you look right above my camera, there's a little purple bar, and it says Project Freedom. Essentially, right now, I'm working towards the culmination of phase 2.5. I started in phase 1 around the year 2022, I'd say. 2021, 2022. In phase 1, the purpose was to find a way to understand what this project would be, how it would take root, and also to work on myself. I knew there were a lot of tendencies that I had that were counterproductive when it came to being able to accomplish large goals. I didn't hold myself accountable. I had a lot of physical issues, cognitive issues, social development issues. And I realized I was not yet the kind of person who could take on this project. And so from the age of, I was 22. So from the age of 22 to 23, let's say, from the age of 23 all the way to 25, I gave myself what I called phase 1. It is a period of experimentation, of data analysis, of gathering, and I place no expectations on myself, no deadline, no pressure. Until the age of 25, I literally just work on myself. I experiment, I gather data, I discover all kinds of things. Most of those 1,500 hours of recorded data came from that time period. I would say a good 4 to 5 of these 17 journals came from that time period as well. Dozens of these projects came from that time period because I had more time. And when I turned 25, my internal estimate had been correct. I was around the development period in my life where I was able to now hold myself accountable, or at least to begin. And so I started working on different attributes. I put some of my projects on pause. I had already developed much of its infrastructure. Now I was to develop myself. I started becoming more accountable. I joined Toastmasters to learn public speaking. I joined various communities. I started taking care of my health. I started exercising again. And the more that I went down this journey, the more that I realized I had a lot of work to do. I still have a lot of work to do. And the last few years have been a journey. Essentially, when I turned 25 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, this was the moment that I realized I need to be responsible for myself. I need to be able to hold myself accountable to my goals. And so that is exactly what I started to do. For the last few years, for the last year and a half specifically, I have been in phase 2, which is I don't have the financial resources to work on my project full time. However, I'm now holding myself accountable and I'm going to be building the infrastructure that will get me to that stage. And I spent 2 or 3 years in another town, working another job and developing some of those skill sets until I eventually realized this was last October. So late October of 2024, I came to realization. Also, we can make this a little closer. Hello. I'm assuming nothing has broken. Nope, looks good. So basically, in 2024, in late October of 2024, I was speaking with a friend and one of my business partners, and he essentially told me the kind of person that I would want to get into business with is the kind of person who can make the following change. Move from where you're currently living and change jobs within 1 to 3 months. And I realized he was correct. I'd been giving myself excuses. I'd been delaying. Something happened, and I ended up having access to $15,000 less than I originally planned. And some of it was due to a misunderstanding, some of it was due to miscommunication, and some of it was due to, I think, a certain lack of integrity and hurt feelings. But at the end of the day, the situation was the same. I had a new opportunity to give myself excuses, to delay. And it kind of never stopped until that conversation in late October, I realized enough was enough. I had been stalling on my project, stalling on my personal development, and I was not proud of the version of myself that I was. I was becoming someone that I was proud of, but my timeline was very slow, very vast. It was going to take like 3 years, and well, maybe more, 1 year. Like, it was going to take 1 more year. My plan was to leave at the end of 2025, and in that one conversation, I agreed. 2 or 3 days later, I told my landlord that he could move someone into my apartment by the 1st of February. And what was really interesting about this, I told him that he can move someone into my apartment in the middle of winter when I hadn't even started looking for an apartment or a job or anything, and it is not moving season where I live. I burned the boats. I cut off my exits, I went all in, and I gave myself no choice. And it succeeded. I found a wonderful apartment at a really reasonable cost. And that gave me a little more courage, a little more certainty, a little more alignment. From there, I began to consider the next step. I had now moved to Montreal, but I was still working in that older city. And I was now doing 12 hours of commuting because I used to live 10 minutes away from my work, and now I was living more than an hour away with traffic. And so 5 days a week commuting back and forth, like let's say almost 80 minutes per day, sometimes more. It was 12 or so hours of my week just driving to and from work. It was taking so much energy, so much time, and it felt like I was still in my old life without moving to this next one. And so I decided to take the plunge. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I like to think about my decisions, and I realized the choice was simple. Risky, but simple. I am. I'm going to change my phrasing. I am an employee of humanity. I work on behalf of literally the collective. And if you wish to represent me, you can. If you wish for me to work on your behalf, you can. For that purpose, what I've created is a framework and a model and a promise. My goal is to live in near unconditional alignment with my integrity as best defined by my understanding of unconditional love. This is a promise that I hold myself to and that I intend for others, for you, to hold me to as well. It is a commitment and it is a promise, hence the name of the channel, Only Human. The important part of that is the word hue. Essentially, it is the color spectrum hue in English. It's the literal spectrum. It is the hue of humanity, and etymologically, the meaning of the name originally in Latin, or what used to be essentially the origin of it, man means person. So it is a hue person, essentially. So the brand is human. However, my personal promise is only human. It's in part because I have an ego. It's in part also because in my past, I wasn't always aligned with my integrity. And it is something that the deeper I get into myself, the more that I do this introspection, the greater the work and the love that I develop and I cultivate inside of myself, the more that I realize it is important, if not crucial, to remain aligned with my principles. And one of those is unconditional alignment with myself. As you can see literally on screen, the 3 rules, I can also explain that a little bit. But another is that I seek to cause no harm, and I work on behalf of, quite literally, everyone and anyone. I wish to help the collective hue of every person, anywhere on Earth. I don't give a singular flying fuck about your ethnicity, your nationality, your biological sex. I don't care. You could be the most repugnant, vile, Nazi, racist, ethnogenicist, and I'm still going to fight for your rights to the basics of freedom and security, while also fighting for those that these kinds of individuals would wish to suppress. My purpose in life is to play the game of life, to complete the human experience, to 100% this grand adventure. And to do that, I am an employee of humanity. I'm creating a new job description. I'm creating an entire category of employment and testing how this functions with myself as the subject of experimentation. And so now we get to the critical part. I cannot, literally, I can't do this alone. It's not possible. My goal isn't to fix everything. My goal isn't to solve every problem. My goal isn't to make a perfect solution to all things forever. My goal is to do the best that I can and to work with anyone that I can to get to those ultimate objectives. The way that I can do that is by being able to own my time, to pursue these projects, and to have the financial security that allows me to make almost everything that I make, more than 98% of everything that I make, in one way or another, free of access to the entire world. Some of my projects are in politics, some of my projects are in enterprise, some of my projects are in health, some of them are in infrastructure, some of them are in personal recreation. I have a list of 100 or so possible projects that I could do in my life, and I don't intend to get to more than probably 10 of them, depending on what opportunities present themselves, and I'm probably not going to complete more than 2. However, this is also part of a much larger plan, something that I call the Millennium Initiative, a 1,000-year plan as a possible restructuring of society. I have civilizational scale ambitions. I literally think of myself as a civilizational architect. My goal is to work with creative passions and people who want to see a better, kinder, brighter world, and to not only empower them, but to help us empower each other to live in that kind of a society, to make a world in which we could retire with the knowledge that the people who come after us will be cared for and that they will have a better life than we did. I want us to retire in the world to which we could have been born had those who came before us fought just a little bit harder. And so in order to do that, I quite literally need to be able to make a living. I've taken a risk. I have quit my job as of 3 weeks ago, and I'm now doing this full time. The last 2 weeks have been setting up a lot of the infrastructure, getting the back end ready, developing systems, catching up on some work that was required. And now I'm getting to the momentum of content creation. As of next week, I'm going to be streaming every week, 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Monday is going to be the theme is Mindful Mondays. So it's where we learn. It's also like active meditations. It's brain exercises. It's training, interacting with the audience. On Wednesdays, like today, it is the working Wednesdays. So it's days where I do more productive tasks. However, if circumstances allow, like today, we get a little off topic. However, the original intention was to come here and to build this program. If it doesn't get done today, that's perfectly fine by me. And then on Fridays, it's Fun Fridays. So this is like more relaxed, more chill, music, gaming. Like I downloaded Cyberpunk from Steam. I've never played it before, and I'll be playing it not this Friday because I'm doing an activity with a friend, but as of next Friday when I'm doing the full content creation schedule, and I will no longer be scheduling things when I have streams most of the time. I will now be doing regular streams, regular content creation, regular engagements, while also handling and supporting other projects that I have. Doing this requires time, doing this requires money, and doing this requires an investment. This is not fully fleshed out yet, however, I would like to show you. So I'm going to send it in chat. This link, essentially, we're going to take a look at it together. Because I would like to explain what I intend to do. Think of this also, I'm also practicing, because full disclosure, I'm essentially asking for money, but I'm not just saying, give me money. I would like to learn how to explain the value of what it is that I intend to offer. So this is my link tree. Here, there's all kinds of different links. Oh, also, I want to show you something. I really like this one. So take a look at the Twitter logo here. I found a version of this and modified it slightly with AI to add a little X and change some details. But essentially, this is Twitter, basically. But let's go back to the Zoom. So essentially, this is my link tree. And here's how I describe myself. I am professionally human. However, I'm also slightly insane. The way that I think of it is I am professionally insane. I'm very good at being relatively unstable. I've had an entire lifetime of practice. I've learned to use what makes me neurospicy to my advantage, and for a very long time it was a literal handicap that held me back in grades. However, it also gave me incredible opportunities, like reading 1,500 books before the age of 15, or being able to consume 18,000 hours of Minecraft by the age of like 21. Hyper obsession, the ability to mass consume knowledge and information, listening to probably 10,000 hours of debates and conversations and podcasts, and just integrating that knowledge, feeding off of it, and building a larger persona. And so through a lifetime of experience, I learned to harness my insanity, my little flair. And so I am now professionally insane. And as a result, I'm also insanely professional. In part because I don't give a shit about being anything other than exactly that which I am. And that is quite literally part of the pitch. It's part of the selling point. It is part of my value. And so on the screen itself, you'll see right above my name, right above my camera, there's Project Freedom. We're going to see what that is. So many people will use platforms like Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon, but I took issue with some of these platforms. I originally had a Patreon. Particularly, I still have it. Don't go there because I don't use it. But I use Coffee. The reason why, even though it has less functionalities than a platform like Patreon that is more well established, is because I like the way that they go about it. They are ethical. They represent the values that I hold in myself. Patreon, for example, they're inconsistent with their moderation, with their application. They don't really value the creators themselves. They see them as the possibility for exponential growth and profit. Because Ko-Fi is a smaller company, they don't really have that need to compete with that same ruthless, merciless edge that Patreon does. So because Patreon is so big, it has to be ruthless, otherwise it will no longer be as big. Ko-Fi doesn't have that issue. And so in part because it is not as big, it is much more kind, but I also enjoy their practices. For example, on Patreon, they recommend that you have your minimum donation set to $3 a month. But the reason for this is because off of every single transaction, they will take, I think it's 30 or 40 cents. So basically, if, as I wish, the lowest tier is $1, not $3, I would lose practically 30 to 40% of every single donation before taxes. So in reality, I might not even make 50% of the $1 donation, and I want to make this accessible to more people. I do not want to be like the mega corporations that get most of their money from massive industrial clients that then get to purchase their loyalty. If I'm to be an employee of humanity, I cannot and should not be corrupt. Therefore, I want to be accountable to the people who quite literally support me, who vote for me with their dollar. And so this is now my opportunity to encourage this type of support. So here's how I see it. For $1 a month, actually, this I will show you after, actually. I would like to show you these two sections first. So this is where you can have a goal. So for example, here I could edit the goal and we kind of see what it is. This is the back end as the creator, but this is the goal itself. Project Freedom. Let's see if I can, there we go. Project Freedom Phase 2.5. Like I was mentioning, I have a 25-year model of 5 phases. I was in Phase 1 until the age of 25. Now, as of a year and a few months, I've been in Phase 2. And now this is what I'm doing to approach Phase 2.5. Phase 2 is I am now holding myself accountable. Phase 3 is I can work on my projects in a part or full-time capacity, but if it is full-time, I'm doing it on someone else's behalf, or I have a debt, or I have some kind of thing like that. And also there are limitations on what I'm doing. I don't necessarily have international availability. I don't necessarily have employees at this stage yet. That would be Phase 4. And then basically, once I'm in Phase 4, it is all in preparation for Phase 5. In the same way that Phase 2 had an arbitrary deadline of when I turn 25, this activates, Phase 5 is the same. Phase 5 will only trigger in 2050. So basically, I have as a responsibility, as a goal, as an objective, to get to phase 4 before 2050. And ideally, the more time that I have, the more that I can prepare for a very special project that will literally have an impact, if I succeed, on every single person alive in the world. I'm not exaggerating. My goal for 2050 is to be able to achieve this project, to launch this initiative. As such, there are intermediate stages. I am currently working to... Oh, that was an automated send. I did not do it a second time. Essentially, I am working to develop an infrastructure where I can build for a living, onboard people, and support those who would make this world a better, more meaningful place. And so, in 2023, the stage of initial experimentation, I received over $100 in crowdfunding. People who wanted to support me, people who wanted to help me. Then, in 2024, I crossed the $1,000 barrier. I think I got like $1,200 or so. And now my goal for 2025 is to reach this next interval. So basically, if we go a little closer, these are the phase milestones that I have ahead of me. Currently, I have succeeded phase 2, and now I'm building towards phase 3. Essentially, it's the public launch. It is the forward facing. I've taken the risk. I've literally quit my job. I'm going into this full time. I'm building multiple companies. I'm investing. No, not investing. I am developing 2 communities myself. I'm building multiple companies that currently are not making a revenue, but they will in 2026, maybe 2027. I'm also engaged in multiple communities that either develop my personal skill sets or help others to do the same. And I'm basically investing in my future. But the problem with that is that it is in my future. I will not be making a revenue off of my projects for many years, in part because I don't want to sell out. It would be relatively easy to find someone who would like to purchase this product. I give them the intellectual rights. I work with their team a little bit and I give them this service. But the problem with doing that is that then everyone loses access to this. My goal is, and I'm not exaggerating, to make basically everything that I create free, or mostly free. I want people to have access to this information. And so, this is the goal bar that you see above, Project Freedom. Creating open access tools for personal growth and societal change. Near everything I make is, and will be, free. Knowledge should never be locked behind paywalls, nor reserved for the privileged few. A human right. This fund supports the cost of creation, keeping knowledge free. In 2023, I got to 100. In 2024, I got to 1,000. My goal for 2025 is to get to 10,000. And then with that additional momentum, building the phases out and out and out, I want to do this for a living. I want to build systems that I make freely available more or less to people for a living, while the projects that are going to make a revenue develop themselves on the back end. And in order to do this, it requires support. So, about. Hi, I'm Anrith, an employee of humanity. I design open access frameworks for human growth, weaving together consciousness, longevity, self-improvement, and societal transformation. My core belief is simple. Knowledge should be free. Not hidden behind paywalls or reserved for the privileged few, but shared openly with everyone. Through tools, protocols, reflections, conversations, and tracking systems, I aim to help people align more deeply with themselves and each other. Most of my work is public because I believe transformation multiplies when it is shared. This journey isn't funded by corporations or brands. It's powered by those who resonate with this mission and choose to support it directly. Your support keeps this work alive, growing, and accessible. If you believe in this vision, welcome. You're exactly where you belong. And so now, with this, I would like to show you the following. Also, keep in mind, while I am talking to the stream, this is also being recorded. And I will be using the clip of this segment to post it in other places. So it is serving a dual purpose. I'm speaking to not only the present, I'm also literally speaking to the future. Whoever you might be listening, I am also speaking to you. This is a a larger goal, a larger task, and a larger project. And so now, when we go to membership, essentially the way that I designed it is I like patterns, I like systems. You notice, for example, in 2023 it was 100. Then I added a 0 to 1,000 for 2024. I added a 0. I like these patterns, I like these systems. I'm very organized in that sense. Like I enjoy patterns. I enjoy understanding how things relate to one another. It is literally part of why I succeed in what I try to do, because I find the logical sequences built into the frameworks to weave story, to weave narrative. I would like to show you one of those here. I'm currently working on the logo designs, and I got these two how I want them, but the image got cropped, so I'm basically working on these logos, but everything else is actually correct. So essentially, there are 6 tiers. The first 3 and the second 3 are in different classes of their own, and you will see why. Because what I'm trying to do is very vast and a little bit nebulous, and it's not like you're not going to directly purchase a product immediately. It's literally several years of working on the back end, developing, but also I'm showing the process. I'm engaging in content creation. I'm sharing that journey, building a connection. The question is, do you believe in what I'm trying to do? Do you believe that a world in which I succeed is a world in which we succeed? Do you think that a world in which I have the ability to create, to experiment with my time, and to challenge the status quo is a world in which we are better off? If so, what I ask, and literally all that I ask, is a literal token of your support. Now, if English is not your first language, a token is essentially sort of like a small little coin. It is a token, it represents something. Usually a token has value. It's embedded in the definition. Why I chose this terminology is because, in my mind, a token is an amount small enough that if it were on the floor, you would hesitate to pick it up. But it is big enough, large enough, meaningful enough to you that you would. You would bend down and pick it up, even if it's a little dirty or whatever it might be. It has enough meaning that it has meaning. It has value, essentially. But it is so small that you would hesitate to pick it up. That is all that I ask. Because here's the thing, I want to be an employee of humanity, and therefore I cannot expect every single person to pay me a full wage like a corporation would. That's just not how this works. And if I ever go to one person and they give me all the money that they have, I'm now going to be working for their interests. I won't want to piss them off. If ever one of their business happens to conflict with mine, I wouldn't want to make them angry, because that would potentially not be very good for me. And so I want to not have that bias. I intend to be an employee of humanity, not of very specific subsections of our species. I am your employer. As such, I am your employee. The question to ask is, am I worthy? Am I worth a literal token of your support? Now, there are 3 initial tiers. The first is $1 a month. So this is supporter tier, and all of these have integrated Discord ranks and things of that nature. I'm going to be basically building an actual community of people, infrastructure frameworks, full access to basically everything. As soon as you pay $1 a month, you get access to, I want to say, 98% of everything that I do. If you don't pay, like literally $0, that is completely fine. 50% of what I make will be available for free in one way or another. And so I really want to incentivize as many people in the $1 tier as I can. It's a part of why I went from Patreon to Coffee, even though it would likely hurt the growth a little bit, because more people have a Patreon account, so it's less of a hassle. It's basically, what I'm asking is not the money, it's almost more costly in terms of time and effort to make this account. So if this is something of value to you, what I would ask of you is, am I worthy of your support? Do you wish to vote with your dollar for a future that you think we together can help build, that is a little bit better, a little bit kinder, and hopefully a lot wiser? If not fairer, but I think that is a larger promise that is potentially out of my ability to, well, the promise. The goal, however, is the same. I am professionally insane. There aren't many people like me. Make use of me. In order to do that, I wish to be unleashed upon the world, to have the ability to experiment, the ability to build, the ability to create. And so here's how I've gone about it. Once again, you'll notice I enjoy intervals and patterns. There are 10,000 places at this tier. So my goal would be to have 10,000 people paying $1 a month because I have impacted 10,000 lives to the point where they believe that there's genuine value in me being able to do what I do. I'm not asking you for everything you make. I'm asking you for a token of your support, a sign and symbol of your support, literally a token of your support. Now, what does that mean to you? For some people, for most people, it is $1 a month. And actually, I did the math. I looked at global statistics. I literally did the math. 85% of the world, actually, I'm going to read it. So, to 85% of the world, let's zoom in on this. To 85% of the world who could give this and barely notice it's gone, thank you for noticing something most people overlook. That small choice means more than you know. And if you can't afford this right now, I'm not asking you to. Your presence matters just as much, and I mean it. Now, this value is not USD, it is Canadian. The reason for it is because, well, for one, I'm not convinced in the value of the dollar staying very long, but also I am Canadian, and that's important to me. And also by making it $1 Canadian, it means that it can be even more affordable for individuals who live in other parts of the world. I'm not asking for $1 USD, I'm asking for essentially 70 cents, 75 cents USD, or $9 USD per year, $12 Canadian per year. Also, every single person who joins, even if you then stop, gets added to this list. And basically, for example, right now, the reason there's 999 places is because one of these individuals over time stopped. I know why, that's a different discussion. However, one of these individuals is still there. And they will forever be the first person who helped me, who contributed to this journey, who supported me, who believed in me, with a token of their support. And this continues. 85% of the world's population can afford $1, and it literally not even appear anywhere in their finances. Or have it basically be a token. Like it has value, but also it's not a cost. It's a demonstration. The second tier, contributor, is $1 a week, or $4 per month. So $1 a month, $1 a week. I'm sure you can guess what the next one is going to be, but essentially here, there are 998 places left. Before it was 10,000 total, here it's 1,000 total, which means here there are currently 2 people actively subscribed to this tier. Essentially, and once again, I did the math. Like really, like this is the percentage of the world population that can afford this. To the 70% of you who could turn a small treat into a small act of support, thank you. It might be simple to you, but it's profound to me. If this isn't the right time for you financially, that's okay. You're still valued, no donation required. And I genuinely mean it. This comes out to $4 a month, 24 Canadian, or $36 USD per year. And the top 10 Hall of Fame. 2 of these people are currently active. The other 2, I know why, and I try not to lie. I'm essentially 99.98% honest to the best extent that I can, and I also try not to exaggerate. I try not to lie. The following statement is a truth claim. There are 2 people here who are no longer contributing. I know why, and I genuinely respect them for their decision. Which is interesting to say. Even both of them. One of them is a little more tricky, but I respect both of them for their decision. And that's new. And there's a few more spots if you want to claim the top 10. And also, it won't be on here, but on my website, I will eventually be literally listing the top 100. And then eventually the top 1,000. And I would like to have a growing list of literally every person who's ever contributed. And just have a top X number Hall of Fame. Eventually tying that into a personal account and larger systems. But that's a phase 3 and 4 project. So that's in 7 to 15 years. But for now, there's a few spots left in the top 10. Then $1 per day. So the benefactor. Essentially, $30 per month. There are 100 total places, so 10,000, 1,000, 100, and right now there's one person currently at this tier. To the 25% of the world who can part with this like it's a streaming subscription or a weekly coffee, thank you for choosing to help sustain something that matters. And to the rest, no pressure, no expectation. Your consideration alone is already a gift. And again, I genuinely mean this. I do not say things that I do not mean. If this is not right for you, I am not asking this of you. It comes out to 360 per year Canadian, or 270 per year USD, which is for 25% of the world's population. If you are not in that population, I am not asking you. And then, right now there are 10 places, because the individual who was at this stage still wishes to support, but is currently going through a situation of their own, and I fully respect that, and I am happy for them. And not only the respect, I am glad that they respected themselves enough to stop, and I appreciate their entire contribution. Essentially, this is Investor, $100 a month. Now you will notice, we did a bit of a change, because it went from, now I'll show you all three at once, we went from $1 a month, $1 a week, $1 a day, to the next category, $100 a month, $100 a week, $100 a day. The reason I didn't go with 10 is because I calculated that $10 a month would actually come back to less than $30 per month. And so the tiering didn't make sense, so I jumped 2 intervals of 0. And so essentially, this section, to the 10% who can give at this level without financial strain and choose to do so anyway, your support is more than appreciated. It is a stabilizing force. You are the reason this work stays grounded day after day. You don't just show up, you create space for others to rise. And if this isn't within your means, please know this tier was never meant to ask more than you can give. I really, really do mean that. And it comes up to 1.2k a year Canadian, $900 USD. And my very good friend supported me for 14 months, $1,400. And her support, it means more than she knows. And she knows quite a bit of it. It literally helped me more than I think she understands. And so now, here's the thing. At this stage, there are 2 other categories. They are here because I plan for the future. I literally have a 25-year plan, and so the way that I intend to do crowdfunding would be no different. I know where I'm heading, and so therefore I'm making it beforehand. I don't expect for people to subscribe to this level because I've perhaps not yet shown why I'm worthy of this investment. However, I do want it present because I want to demonstrate where I'm heading. And I want to make it clear. I don't intend... Okay, so here's another promise that I'm making. This here, these 10,000 places, the only way that I'm getting more than one person here, because right now, there's literally one place left. There's only one place in this final tier. For $100 a day, $3,000 per month, there's a single tier. Because the reason for this is that I do not want to be bought. I want to work on behalf of humanity. The only way this becomes top 3, as the next category is, top 3, and this one is $100 per week, the only way that this gets more is if I fill those initial 10,000 slots. The only way that I can get more people to pay me larger amounts of money is if, and only if, I have successfully touched the lives of 10,000 people whose token is equivalent to $1 a month Canadian, 75 cents USD per month. This is part of the promise of Only Human. I am only human. I am imperfect. I will always be imperfect. We are only human. We are imperfect, and we will always be imperfect. And yet, that is not an excuse not to try. It is a reason to do even better. We are only human. And that is a wonderful thing. It implies a variety of ability, of complexity. And my life's mission is to help us retire in the world to which we could have been born. If you believe that I am worthy of your support, if you believe that I'm worth a token of your support, if you wish to vote with your dollar for the future that you wish to live in, and you think that I am worthy of your support, I ask, but I do not expect, and I certainly do not demand, that you consider a token of your support. In time, my ability to impact the world will be directly proportional to the amount of people that I have impacted in the world. Like I said, I'm not against the concept of billionaires, and just once again being very honest, I have many plans, a lot of ambition, and I would be surprised if I don't. No, actually, I'm gonna be less humble because I'm being dishonest. I will eventually have the network and resources available to me that is equivalent of hundreds of millions, if not potentially billions of dollars. And like I said, I am not comfortable with the idea of billionaires in a world where people still starve to death, which is why I've also literally designed a 100-tier model. I don't have access to it here, but I have designed a way for literally at a certain income bracket, I give 1% of it away. Actually, currently I give 1% of it away. For as long as I make less than $100,000 a year. Actually, no. So above 50,000 Canadian and below 100,000 Canadian, this section, I give 1% of my annual income to the world. It takes the form of charity, or let's say like a Patreon or coffee subscription to other people, other creators, individuals that I think are worth it. Or I come across someone who is homeless and I will buy them a cup of coffee, or I'll give them a few dollars. I see that as part of me giving back. So for as long as I'm within that 50K to 100K category, I'm giving annually 1% of my wages to people, and those that I believe are worthy of support. When I get to the next increment, like I literally designed it so that every single time I reach a new increment, I give 1% more to a different category. Eventually, some of it is, for example, a retirement fund for my children, or it's specifically targeted towards the category of environmental protection or sustainability or renewable energy development or educational grants, stuff like that. And literally, the more money that I will make, the more that I will be giving out. And I've designed the framework so that the literal only way that I can make more than $1 billion a year is if I make it off of a single percent of the money that I have left. Meaning the only way that I could become a billionaire, like in terms of like an annual income, is if I generate more than $100 billion of revenue per year. Meaning, if I do one day get to that stage, it will be because I have earned it, and it will mean that I am not living in hypocrisy, judging those who take more than they give. My goal is to set the example and to literally live by a standard of ethical capitalism. I would like to set a new standard. I would like to inspire others to join me in this same challenge. This is part of a larger project called the 1% Initiative. Right now, the infrastructure explaining it is not developed. It used to be on a different site, and currently I don't have access to it, I believe. This was an old website that I had, and unfortunately I transferred to a different platform without saving it. Maybe it's saved? Oh, that's promising. It might actually have saved. So this is the Wayback Machine. It's an archive of my old website that is no longer functional and all of its data essentially erased. But hello there. So you're thinking of donating. Well, that's very kind of you. Here is a pre-thing. Oh, hello. Could you close my door, please? Thank you very much. My brother's back. You got home earlier than I thought. So basically, it's the I would like to read it. Like, I have not read this since I've basically written it like years ago. Let's go through this together. I'm very curious. Hello there. So you're thinking of donating? Well, that's very kind of you. Here's a preemptive thank you regardless of the result. The thought is appreciated. Asking for money is always such a strange proposition, but I believe my reasoning solid should this interest you. If you're not familiar with who I am or what I'm trying to accomplish, might I suggest reading the About and Phases section, or going further down to see how I intend to use the financial support. The simple version is as follows. In early 2020, I took up something of a mission that has since shaped every aspect of my development. I'd like to try and leave this world in a better place than I found it. Although rather simple sounding, you must understand the scope of my ambitions. If you're not familiar with who I am, nor what drives me, you're likely unaware that I tend to think big. Really big. If I was to try and help people, why not try to aim bigger? Why not tackle every problem systematically? I know it sounds ridiculous and impossible, but that's kind of what I specialize in. For a deeper understanding of exactly how I hope to achieve this, please see my fill-in section of where I go into more details as to the specifics. Assuming you've now read this section or are ready to take me at my word, let us proceed. Large ambition requires equally vast pools of resources. More specifically, there are 3 obstacles currently in the way of my projects. I work a full-time job, do not own my time, and due to circumstances, I'm forced into shift and night shift work. That really was brutal. I spent almost 3 years in the night shift. You literally die 10 years younger on average when you work a lifetime of night shifts. You have a higher chance of cancer, of dementia, of heart disease. It's atrocious. The second is I can't afford to start a company, allowing me to delegate tasks and take on exponentially more projects. And finally, I'm currently young and inexperienced. I have another decade of growth to do before things get serious. Ultimately, this means that I'm limited in the scope of what I can reasonably achieve. The less resources at my disposal, the slower the climb. This is where you come in, if you'd be so inclined. My financial support philosophy. If you cannot afford to support my work, do not. It's truly that simple. I've made sure that near everything I do holds to certain principles. Everything I produce should, to one extent or another, be free. Everything I produce should, to one extent or another, be accessible to those who need it. Everything I produce should, to one extent or another, operate on gratitude and integrity. And yes, this does limit me immensely. This means that the near totality of everything I produce is going to either be freely available on platforms like YouTube or behind a $1 paywall on Patreon, something I call basically free. Crucially, this does, however, mean that whoever needs or wants access to what I produce will have the ability to do so, regardless of their financial circumstances. And lastly, it also means that the community I hope to foster will be the kind that will repay the value they obtain in the spirit of support and gratitude. I ask for nothing and gratefully accept anything. But it also means that I will be selective about the sponsors I take on. If I don't support or see the benefit of a particular brand or product, I won't be taking it on as a sponsor. Let me give you a simple example. G Fuel. They will sponsor almost anyone in the social media space. They sell an unhealthy energy drink, and so out of principle, I will never take them on as a sponsor. Same goes for a shitty mobile game or a subpar system or service. This limits me more than you can imagine. It does also come with a direct benefit. I'll be hard to corrupt. That's going to be a very useful trait in a global activist / revolutionary / dreamer type. If you have something to spare and think me a worthwhile investment, then please donate today. Many, many thanks. I can only do this because of people like you. It truly does mean more than you know. And so then, there is more below. This was made in 2023. Well, it was made in 2022, updated in 2023, and this is a snapshot archive of this in early 2024, January 19th to be precise. So what donations allow? It even saved this, fantastic. And this still holds true today, by the way. Like, all of this is true today. Let's close this. Learning and education. Not only would your contribution support me through my own growth, but you would also help streamline an ambitious multi-generational project tackling global societal reform. I did not put the link, but essentially this would be the Academy, which is another project of mine. And it is tied to the Everything Solution, which is another project of mine. Then introspective growth. I wish to live a life prioritizing exploration, experimentation, and expression. I am an actively meditating psychonaut, aspiring artist and creator, and insatiably in search of my unrealized potential. Also, the ownership of my time. The ability to seek out challenging and developmental experiences. Having a regular and variable sleep schedule, conserving and redirecting energy and productivity, utilizing this freedom to pursue my projects. Owning my time. Maintenance, regeneration, and training. Supporting the physical is just as important as the mental. The ability to properly invest and maintain your physical vessel is crucial to a wonderful, powerful, and lengthy life. Supplementation, equipment, time. Your donation helps keep me at my best. Taking on projects. Some projects are required to kickstart internal processes. Some will play a role in future developing goals down the line. Others require the acquisition of certain skills and/or resources. They may even necessitate governmental cooperation down the line. They are commitments and shall be treated as such, but the earlier they are started, the faster they will be accomplished. Community development. One of my projects specifically tackles the subject of human relation and community. The individualized collective is to act as a tool to encourage communication, collaboration, and progress. Individual or collective, it does it all. And this is another project which was also pending, which ties into the 1% initiative. Now, since writing this, I've actually changed this a little bit. The 1% initiative is now literally 100 sub-projects, sub-initiatives, 100 initiatives of 1% impact. This is one of them. So each year, I donate 1% of my income to the community at large. Recipients include various entertainers, educators, activists, organizations, and all working for the public good. Although indirect, a portion of your donations go to support the global community and those in need. It is a low-effort way of spreading awareness and support for all of us. Essentially, what I mean by this is, if you were to... any donation that goes here, literally 1% of it right now will go back into the general population, to those that I have found are worthy of support. In time, the more money that I make, like I mentioned, 1% of it will go to different categories, and every interval of 10 will go to this 1% general fund. So my first 1% is the general fund. My 10th percent will now make 2%. Once I get to 20, 30, 40, 50, that entire bracket will go to it. And so by the end, I will be giving percentage number 1, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. So those 10 percentages will essentially mean that 10% of my income goes directly to a general fund, which is more or less accessible to all. Think of it as my attempt at making a prototype of global international borderless UBI. And it's a much larger project. It will not get to that stage for literal decades, but I plan on the scale of literal centuries. And I intend to get there by planning on the scale of decades. Your support is the only way that this works. Because, for example, I currently, like as of me recording this if you look at the little corner over there, right underneath the title, I have a live, essentially, screen capture of my date and time. So it is currently... it is the 16th of July, 2025. As of this date, I'm currently making $39 every single month, Canadian. with general expenditures around $2,500 to $3,000. I am in a deficit of very nearly $3,000 every single month. And I don't say this to guilt trip you. I'm really not. I'm saying this in part because, I'll be honest, I'm a little stressed. This is an investment. I'm literally going all into this project with the intention of working for the collective benefit of all people, including myself. And in order to do this, it quite literally requires support. And I would be honored for it to be your support. Do not underestimate what even a single dollar a month can do. Because here's the rub. Basically everyone will skip. Basically every single person will not do this. And I don't want to make my money with 10,000 people giving me $3,000 a month. I want to make my money with 10,000 people giving me $1 a month. In order to do that, I am asking for your support. And that doesn't have to mean money. It can literally mean subscribing to the channel you're watching. It can mean liking a post. It can mean just being interested. It can mean if you know someone who might be interested, sending this their way. Or when your future growth happens, if that's part of just living life, or perhaps even from engaging with my content, from accessing my free resources. Some of this helps you, some of this benefits you, and you become a greater, more accomplished person down the line as you grow, as you age, as you develop more connections, as you get promotions at work, as your life circumstances change. If at any point in time what a token means to you, whether that token is 0, that token is 1, that token is 100, whatever that means to you, I am asking for a token of your support. And that includes this token. I'm asking you for a token. I'm not asking you for money. If the token represents money, then you are also helping me literally do this for a living. You are now voting with your dollar, and you are now essentially crowdfunding me as my employer. And I am working on your behalf. You are literally voting with your dollar. In time, there will be specific projects and ways for those who support to quite literally have a say in the projects that I start, the directions that they go in, to an extent. To the extent it is reasonable. I am asking for your support, for a token of your support, whatever that means to you. And so, thank you for listening. It's a really strange feeling asking for money, asking for help. Actually, not even just asking for money, asking for help. I've spent the last 10 years with the mentality that I shouldn't have any weaknesses, I shouldn't have any vulnerabilities, and that just made me weaker and more vulnerable than I ever could have imagined. I didn't value human connection, I didn't value my own emotions, and it left me very lonely, to the point where I'm now realizing the value of a human experience is in the connections, the meaningful relationships that one builds. When you die, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it matters the people that you touched. And I would be honored to make a living helping the people that I love. And it's a good thing that I aim for my love to be unconditional, because I love humanity, people, persons. I love the I love the experience. And without exaggerating and without, hopefully, this sounding weird, I also have love for you, regardless of whether or not you have love for me. As a fellow member of your species, or as a colleague, as a friend, as a person, as a human, I respect you. And I hope, but I do not need, that you feel in kind. that you feel the same in return. That was very emotional and vulnerable, and there's a part of me that's going to have to process this. What it means, how it feels. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing me out. And regardless of your decision, thank you for your consideration and your support, whatever form it takes. So, now wrapping up this little segment with a nice little bow. I'm flushed, my breathing is different, I feel very vulnerable. What an interesting feeling. What an interesting feeling. Also, let's put a little... Oop. There we go. I've got my first kick follower. Val. Thank you. That means more than you know. Huh. Okay, so it's a really weird feeling. It's an appreciation of everything that this has been building to. It is an appreciation of community, of interest, of value. I am so grateful. More than I can possibly explain. Huh. What an incredible adventure we are headed for. What an unbelievably magical life we are headed for. I'm still in my head from what were just discussing, and it is time for one segment to stop and another to begin. Mental clarity. And now we will be returning to our work. Our very important work. So, just closing the old tabs, the heart rate zones, the biology lessons, running form. Genuinely so fascinating. You know, I will say this one last thing. This is tied to what we were just discussing before, but I have so much gratitude, to an extent that it's honestly taken me by surprise. I'm becoming so kind in a way that I'm genuinely surprised by. I knew that it would be the result of the work that I've been doing, the alignment with myself and my values. However, years down the line, literally 3.5 to 4 years later, seeing the result of everything that I've done, the work that I've put in. I'm not perfect. I am literally only human. I'm literally only human. And yet, we've come so far. And there's so much left to do. But that is a call to adventure, not an excuse. It is an opportunity. How exciting. I'm looking forward to this life. I really, really am. So, this here, we're going to be returning to it. I'd started making some small modifications. This is the exercise program that I had once made for myself. A custom training manual, fitness, functionally incremental training necessitating exercise and strengthening systems. You automatic little camera. As soon as it loses my face, it struggles. But essentially, a custom design exercise program. And this is the modifications to an old template. I'm now working with a gym trainer to develop a new series of exercises. I'm also now physically more active. I'm leading a longevity community, and I'm associated with several others. I have many projects currently building in the health space, and so it is incumbent upon me to reflect those changes within myself. If I am to be only human and yet make it mean so much, then it begins here. It begins with small, meaningful attempts at not only fixing myself and improving on certain health malfunctions, but also building towards a greater system. And so basically, the way that I've designed it is I have multiple tiers. I can even perhaps show you something that will help clear it up. I like my acronyms, whether that's fitness, functionally incremental training necessitating exercise and strengthening systems, or weight, or trip, or care. I have many acronyms. And within fitness, within the subsection of fitness, I do also have acronyms. So, prep, rep, set, and rest. Essentially, because it's probably going to be very hard to read. Ooh, actually, wait. Temporarily, I am going to go here, but not for very long. Prep, physiotherapeutic recovery exercise program. Rep, regular exercise program. Set, super functional exercise program. Rest, actually it would be training. Technically that's a spelling mistake. Super functional exercise training, and then rest is recovery enhancing stretch training. These are a series of programs and systems custom designed by yours truly to basically track multiple different evolutions of character, of desire, of levels of fitness. It's preparing yourself for physical rehabilitation. It's it identified a face because it auto zooms to a face, and I don't think that's necessarily entirely human. But basically, there's systems and subsystems and programs and subprograms. This is just one of many projects. Today, what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be continuing is developing and finalizing some of these changes. Not all of this applies to what I'm doing. This is part of prep. So prep knee ability 0. Program prep. Let's also add a few more spaces to center. No. Doesn't look correct. However, this title might be too long. So we're gonna put prep instead, because this is a level 2 semi-functional fitness program. So let's actually put this up here. Something you'll learn about me is I enjoy my systems, I enjoy my prototypes, and I am very... Anal isn't the right word, but it isn't the wrong word. I'm particular. So prep level 2. But it, oh, my little cat is jumpy. Actually, I can even show you. Let's go here. Hello. Yeah. You little cutie. Yeah, he's adorably jumpy. Poor little thing. Okay. So, oh yes, I was gonna change it. Oh, I haven't been showing you. Yes, okay, so now we're back. This is the page I'm currently working on. I'm designing my exercise program. So I ended up getting a little bit distracted by a very interesting conversation, but I do want a place to demonstrate that this is prep. So this is prep, which is at level 2. This is level 2 prep of semi-functional fitness. Semi-functional fitness, it being level 2. So, fitness prep level 2. Okay, so what is the logical structure we would want? Prep level 2 title. So this is title. So this can be, let's say, made a little more petite, yes. Fitness level 2. Fitness level 2. Also, let's give that the accurate design. I hesitate to waste valuable space, but I'm kind of tempted to do this. But that is very valuable space. However, it does also give it a certain vibe. Though, that doesn't have to go on top, does it? Because we can also now modify a little bit of the spacing. If we remove the space before the paragraph, and then we add just a tiny little bit. We can also play with this size, and play with this one. Also, then removing space after the paragraph, and doing the same thing, just a little wider perhaps. Yeah, let's go like this. And so now, we have something that visually looks quite nice, and it is indicative of what we are here to do. Prep knees. Yeah, because there's going to be different levels to this. This was part of a larger exercise program that I would need to find again. I did download it and put it somewhere, but this is going to be for later. For now, I really will just be using this page with slight modifications. So let's give this more space. Ooh, that's bad. It's tight. Ah, it's tied to this. Normally there's a way of separating them, which is unfortunate because it seems like this will not be as easy to separate. Name, date, program, weight, average. Okay, fine. In that case, we're going to change the format entirely. Let's merge these cells, and then let's split these cells. Split cells. 2 columns, 1 row. Yes. And we're going to do the same thing as we did over here. Average. So now, if we were to center these... but there's an additional formatting problem because I would like to put BPM, and that's going to be easier to do when it's lines. And over time, also, I'm going to have better equipment, and I'm going to be tracking more information. So this actually does not work. We're going to be merging this once more. And we're going to be splitting it instead into 3 rows, not 2 columns. Split cells. Oh, when I have a little menu interaction, you can't see it. Like, I'm currently playing in a menu. That's interesting. So, I can only split into 2 rows? Really? Huh. That's unfortunate. Okay, let's split it again. Split, split, split. Same process. Don't know why that was required, but hey. You do you, boo. Oop. Okay. Max heart rate. Now, let's distance all 3 of these. You are adorable in your dysfunction. Okay. I'm really not impressed by Microsoft Word, and I have not been for a very long time. By the way, I've tried to deactivate that, and it's literally not working. I don't want to delete it because I want to use it, but I don't want to have it pop up continuously. And I don't understand why it does. Also, I'm noticing that my emotional output is different. Now that I've had that experience, that I had that conversation, I feel less authentic. I also feel a little tired. And I'm sure that is playing a role. Also, I haven't eaten. Wow. I've been streaming for 3 hours, speaking for 3 hours, barely drinking any water for 3 hours, which cannot help. So, let's get on that. It also was emotional and introspective, which does also take some energy. So now... Now the adventure begins. But see, now that's too big. Huh. How bizarrely made this is. Fascinating. Genuinely very badly made. Well, no, for its time. For its time, it was well made. And now it is a relic of the ancient past. So, spacing before, after, at 115. Let's try 125. What does that do? Well, that did nothing. I'm going to remove whatever I just did because I'm not sure that that would be good. Okay. Okay, whatever that is, we're just gonna keep it as is and experiment a little bit with text. So let's say I were to put text here, and then I pat it just a little bit. It kind of looks... Ah, no, it looks like shit. In that case, I might have a solution. Splitting this into 2 rows as well. Taking this, putting it here, and distributing these columns equally. Hey, there we go. Should not have been this complicated, but hey, it is as it is. And now I also cannot pull it down from here. I'd have to pull it up from here, thereby... Oh, no, it does pull up. Good. So now these are of the same size, which is good. This line, however, is slightly redundant. Knees over toes. Knee ability is 0. So let's see if I can fit it here. Knees over toes. So knee ability 0, part 1. Okay. So what I've just done here, essentially, this individual knees over toes guy, he is responsible for a major transformation when it comes to physical rehabilitation. It's very interesting. I downloaded this program and have been following it, well, followed it for a while. When I did, I had incredible results, and I just did one of those workouts earlier today, literally this. And my God, did it feel good. I'm looking forward to further rehabilitative practices now. Average heart rate, maximum heart rate, and is there something else for the heart? For now, I'm going to leave this blank, and in time, when something comes around, I will have the opportunity to add more. So now I'm going to want BPM. How does Whoop calculate this? Is it simply a measure of the data? So now I'm basically in work mode, by the way. If someone comes and you want to talk, I'm going to be happy to talk. However, I am in work mode and verbalizing the process. So, let's look at my activity functional fitness. Key statistics, calories, average heart rate, max heart rate, duration. Okay. It gives me the time that I spent in various zones, but that's not really important to me. Muscular load calculation, no heart rate settings. Okay. So for now, this will do. Give me average, maximum heart rate, and in time I can put BPM, but for now I'm just going to assume heart/BPM. Beat per minute. Fantastic. Now that I formatted it like this, is there other places, not the title, that would benefit from this reformatting? Not for now, because it seems I also did it here. Did I? Ooh, no, I did not. But because of the formatting, because of the stylization French script, it is different. Understood. Now, as I went through this earlier, I did notice some changes that can be made. So this is going to be a recommendation. Basically, how it works is when it is italicized, it is I could do. When it is bolded, it's I should do. And when it's like this, this would be like the intermediate step between the two. So I had originally gotten to the stage where I could do it on one leg. I currently would not recommend this to myself. I would recommend 2 legs, but with added difficulty, leaning off the wall and also adding a delay. For this, I'm going to be using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to take the middle spot here. So there's 2 on both sides. Perfect. I'm going to be putting in a 3-second delay. I'm going to be underlining this and then, ooh, that's terribly ugly. Ah, that's frustrating. Because see, now due to the formatting of how Word works, I cannot have this. Maybe I could. Wait, so I'm going to try to italicize this, then literally make it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Nah. Okay, it's not exactly the ideal solution, but it is good enough that there's a workaround. Okay, so now 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This I'm going to be graying out. Hopefully it won't also gray out the underline, but I have a feeling that it might. The idea of graying it out is that it shows what I could be doing while also giving me the space to actually do it. And from memory, if I put this gray, it is gray enough that I can see it, but not dark enough that it prevents me from writing on top of it. However, I'm tempted to go just a little bit lighter. There we go. So now I have a target delay, 2 legs, lean off wall for the tibialis raises. Now here I have the recommendation of 2 sets. Today I did 4 sets of 20 on each leg, the left and the right. Whenever there's a symbol for a little 2, let's see if I can find one. Ah, here. This means that it's basically on both sides. So 1 rep of this would be on both sides. And so it's my customized version of how to explain multiple sets, multiple framings, multiple times. Tibialis raise, bottom wall, legs out with that knee bend, flex toes up and hold top and bottom. Fantastic. Now, was it too easy? Was it challenging? Was it too hard? I'll finish with a cold shower. Meditation. So I did finish with a cold shower. Fantastic. I removed this meditation X because it was out of line. However, there's a problem. Again, word. Once you hit it, like, okay, so now I'm gonna italicize this. Right now it's a completely normal little square, but look at how it like literally look at its color, its texture and everything. I'm gonna click it and I'm gonna unclick it. It changes in its properties. It becomes a different square with a different texture once it has been activated. It's the little things that just show that so little care and intention went into this. It makes me realize that the power of Microsoft Word is Microsoft, not Word. If you can find a way to weaken their position or to create a competitor, they're gonna have a run for their money. So now let's copy this. Perfect. Now, other recommendations that I had was stand 2 legs for now, add a 3-second delay, and can lean off wall. So this one is done for the second. It's add a 3-second delay, that has been done, and then hands on wall. This was just here because it's an option for something to add eventually. More bend. So now for this one, it's in the future, it would be recommended that I bend a little bit. And currently, at a 3-second delay, I would say stay with 2 legs, just in case, because I did this earlier, and honestly, if you do it well, it pushes you near your limit. However, there's an instruction that I would add. Stand arm's length from wall. Ah, yes, I removed some words because it wouldn't fit. Move knees over toes to comfort, ideally with heel lift. Use how would I say this? Prioritize lifting with small toes. Ideal. Nope. Lift with small toes. Ooh, lift where possible, and this minimized. What about this? Lift prioritize. Minimize big toe during lift. Comes to the same inevitable conclusion. Also, because now I'm less in streamer mode and I've done that for quite a bit, I'm going to be ending the stream here. However, I am going to continue recording the segments just to be respectful of people who might happen to pop in into the future. So on that note, thank you very much for watching. If you are still present, until next time. And if you're watching this after the fact, hi. Until next time. Thank you.